Hello there, people of the internet. How's everybody doing today? Doing alright, thanks for asking. So today we're going to be talking about a discussion I was having with actually another content creator not too terribly long ago. And they brought up a really interesting point. As many of you know, if you've watched this channel for any real length of time, you probably know that I have quite the arsenal of various different firearms. And one of the things that keeps me, well, one of my rationales behind having such a variety of a collection other than me just wanting to have all these various different platforms, is that in times of scarcity, in times where I can't buy the types of ammunition that I would normally buy, odds are I can find ammunition for at least one of my rifles, so I will be able to find that ammunition. Alright, before we really get started, I want to go ahead and say thanks for watching, but the stuff that I'm doing here is not cheap. This right here is an expensive rifle, and this right here is not cheap ammunition, so I want to say thank you to what few Patreon supporters I have. If you would like to consider assisting me with the work that I do and helping me make future content, consider checking out both Utreon and Patreon, links in the description below. Now, me and my buddy were talking. There are some good ideas to that plan, but there's also some bad ideas to that plan. Most of what I have is gonna be considered, you know, obsolete. I don't know about you guys, but the idea of going into combat with a 6.5 Carcano, however it is you want to pronounce that, going into modern combat with a 6.5 Carcano is just not something that I myself would like to do. So that 6.5 Carcano is probably not a type of ammunition that I would want to stockpile, even though, you know, in times of panic buying it might be available, so it's something that I can get, and it's definitely better than having no ammunition. What the hell was I just talking about? I got a text, so I ended up looking at my phone. It's better than not being able to find any ammunition, but in times where you can find the ammunition that you want, you absolutely don't want to stockpile the oddball stuff. Like, for example, 6.5 Carcano is not going to be my primary rifle. Like, let's be honest here. It's not going to be something that I'm going to be using for a primary defensive purpose in the event that something happens and I find myself needing to defend myself. Now, whatever it is that you pick, by all means, you go ahead and you do you. But whatever it is that you're picking as your primary, that's the ammunition that you should stockpile. A lot of people say you should have like a minimum of 1,000 rounds for every single firearm that you have for preparation purposes. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but having 1,000 rounds of 6.5 Jap, monetarily speaking, is not something that I would like to invest myself in. Rather than invest in 1,000 rounds of some obscure caliber for a rifle that I'm probably not going to use in a SHTF situation, I could take that amount of money and buy like 10,000 rounds of 223 5.56, which is for a platform that I absolutely would use in an SHTF situation. Don't stockpile the oddball stuff just because you have one of those rifles. I mean, get yourself some ammunition for it. I got probably about 200 or so rounds. Well, I got brass and stuff to reload. Consider it, assuming that you load that ammo over and over and over, about 200 rounds worth of components for 6.5 Jap and whatnot. So having 1,000 rounds on standby, like, that's just not something that I would use in any sort of practical sense, even in an SHTF situation, especially with the amount of money that I would spend to get the additional ammunition of 6.5 Jap. Like I said, I could take that money and invest it in my actual practical rifles ammunition and have not only way more ammunition, but have a way better platform than the 6.5 Jap. So just because you own a rifle does not mean that you should go out and stockpile 1,000 rounds for it just because you don't have 1,000 rounds for that rifle. Especially if it's not something that you would primarily be using. Like, I have myself a trapdoor Springfield in 4570. Love the rifle. But I'm not going to go out and invest a bunch of money into 1,000 rounds of 4570 because I'm not going to use that in a practical sense. I mean, I'm definitely going to take that rifle hunting. As a matter of fact, I'm doing that literally this year. It's going to be a really great time. But I'm not going to use it in an SHTF situation. Having 1,000 rounds for that thing is just not going to matter. Now, that being said, let's say your go-to rifle is an M1 carbine, however it is that you feel like pronouncing that. Of course, your way of pronunciation is correcting everyone else's wrong, right? But the M1 carbine, chambered in .30 caliber carbine is kind of expensive to shoot nowadays. Nowadays you can find it for around 80 cents to $1 a round, depending on where it is that you're getting it from and, you know, who manufactured the ammunition, whether or not it's specialty ammunition, etc., etc. But you would get a lot less .30 caliber carbine ammunition than you would for 5.56 slash 223 for the same amount of money. Or if you want yourself a full power rifle, you can go and grab yourself, you know, there. And in $1 grand or Garand, however it is that you want to pronounce that. Of course, your pronunciation is the correct way, and everyone else is incorrect, right? But if your go-to is a full power battle rifle like the Grand or Garand, stockpile ammunition for that rifle, like the 30-06 that this particular rifle takes, although you would be able to stockpile less ammunition than you would for a 223 5.56, but if this is your go-to, then this is the type of ammunition that you would want to stockpile. If something happens and you're like, oh God, here is, you know, the mob, or here's the end of the world, or oh, here come the Russian paratroopers, they're coming down into the fields outside, and you're like, it's go time, and you grab your M1 Grand off your wall and you're like, this is what I'm going to use to defend myself and my family and my home and whatnot. Would you rather have 1,000 rounds of 30-06 for this, or like 500 rounds of 30-06 for this, and 500 rounds of 270 for this right here, although you could absolutely use this if you absolutely had to, but if you had a Grand or Garand, I don't think that you would want to use a rifle like this to defend your life and liberty. Would you rather have 1,000 rounds of actual practical rifle ammunition, or 500 rounds of practical rifle ammunition and 500 rounds of non-practical rifle ammunition for defensive purposes? Now you can have yourself some 270 ammunition for hunting, scavenging, you know, doing whatever it is that you want to do. And if you like that rifle, by all means, if you want ammunition for that rifle, go ahead and get yourself some ammunition for that rifle. But if you're getting ammunition specifically for prepping purposes, for getting ready for an SHTF situation, don't stockpile a bunch of ammunition for your non-practical rifles, especially if it's something that you're not going to use. Like, you might end up using the 270. My methodology, I have myself my intermediate caliber cartridge firing rifle, in this particular case a semi-automatic AR platform, and what I would do is I would have my 223 5.56 rifle with a tremendous amount of 223 5.56 available to me, but I would also have, say, a Mosin Nagant with a bunch of 7.62 by 54 rimmed, and that would be what I use for like taking game and whatnot. Here in the state of Florida, 7.62 by 54 rimmed will take down basically any kind of game. You could use this, but I wouldn't want to go spending a bunch of my 223 5.56 to go out and get myself game and feed myself for a while. I would want to save this ammunition for the event that I might have to defend myself from whatever situation it is that we are facing. But in that case, that Mosin Nagant would be used in that practical situation. So of course, having a bunch of ammunition on it or for it on standby would be a good way to go. However, if I had, you know, like, I don't plan on using this M1 carbine for a practical SHTF situation, so I don't need to spend a lot of money stockpiling a bunch of ammunition for this thing. I mean, I have a fair amount of ammunition for this thing, but nowhere close what I would want for an actual practical rifle in any kind of situation. Now, like I said, 5.56, 223, that's just something that I would stockpile. I also stockpile 7.62 by 39, and I think those are like the two primary cartridges that anybody would want to stockpile. But 223 5.56 has just kind of become my go-to just because of my setup. Used to be 7.62 by 39, also YouTube, semi-automatic and 20 round magazine, so in compliance. I'm not sure how many rounds I had in that, but it was a partial magazine that I had sitting around for a while. But 223 5.56 and 7.62 by 39, those are my go-tos for practicality. I bring an AR and an AK because I don't know what situation we're going to be dealing with. Actually, I'm going to save that for another video. That is a really good idea for a video. As a result, with those being my practical rifles, that is what I would want to bring. Now, if my sidearm is also going to be a 9mm, getting 1,000 rounds of 9mm would be a really good idea. And if my sidearm is a 9mm, then having a 9mm pistol caliber carbine, you know, on standby as well to serve in that practical situation would also be an incredibly good idea. I would absolutely recommend that. But if you have oddball stuff, like, I don't know, I had a guy talking about a 30-40 Krag and how he had a bunch of ammo for it. If you already have the ammo, hey, good for you, especially something like the 30-40 Krag that takes 308 diameter bullets. You can reload that ammunition basically, like, indefinitely. You'll be able to find 308 ammunition basically anywhere. So you won't have any problems getting components for that 30-40 Krag. But I would not recommend going out and investing a bunch of ammunition to stockpile for that just because you think you need to have massive surpluses of ammunition for every single rifle. Have some ammunition for every single rifle. You definitely want that. But have a massive, massive surplus for your practical stuff, the stuff that you would actually use in an SHTF situation. This way, you're not investing a bunch of money in things that you're not going to ultimately end up using in whatever situation it is that we end up finding ourselves in. Okay, so thanks for watching, folks. God, I ought to write that video idea down before I forget about that. Thanks for watching. Actually, I think I'm going to go make that video like right now. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is because I don't want any spoilers, but I got a really good video idea while I was making this video idea. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Description down below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check that out. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the comments because I'm actually curious to hear what you guys have to say about this. This seems to be a controversial topic because there's people out there who want stockpiles for every single firearm that they own. But I mean, unless you're Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or someone like that that has a tremendous amount of expendable income, and I mean, if that's the case, do whatever you want, get whatever you want. I mean, hell, even now, get whatever you want. I don't really care. I'm just giving my advice here. If you don't have a bunch of disposable income, then get yourself some ammunition for all these rifles that you can enjoy, but get yourself, like, invest that money that you would normally spend on ammunition for those rifles into your practical firearms. Like, I'm not going to take the M1 Garand. I love the rifle. I love the rifle very much, but it's just too heavy, too bulky. The ammunition is too expensive. Like, I could just get so much more 5.56 223, which is way more than capable of handling everything it is, or everything that I would possibly need it to handle, than I would be able to pile on with 30-06. So I'm not going to stockpile 1,000 rounds of 30-06 because that 1,000 rounds of 30-06 would give me like 5,000 rounds of 223 5.56, and that would absolutely be what I would want to do. This is not the rifle that I would bring into an SHTF situation, but this is just like serving as an example. As a matter of fact, this is a M16 style build. It's like a mimic. Obviously, it's not the actual real thing. Built on a KE Arms KP15 lower. If you do not know what the What Would Stoner Do project is, then I would recommend that you go check out the What Would Stoner Do project. You can find that information on YouTube. Literally, just look it up. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below, and I'm going to go grab me an AK-47, make another video. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garand. shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.